Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the New Media Show. My name is Todd Cochran. I want to, of course, say hello to my co-host, Mr. Rob Greenlee. Good morning, Rob. How are you?
Doing terrific, Todd. It's great to be back again. We've been really regular over the last couple of weeks, which has been great. We had some great guests, and it's been exciting.
Things have been
doing this show.
Things have been rocking all over the place.
I know it's been a busy week for podcasting too.
You know, it's at the end of the day yesterday, I was kind of like sitting down. I was just like, I need a drink.
Relax, Todd.
yeah. It was a busy week, and lots going on the social interwebs too. So it's just not, and that's where it seems most of the craziness is right now. Of course, there's a few articles here and there, but I think what I was gonna comment on. Did you know, Rob, that you could run a business without paying salaries, without paying benefits, without renting a business, without having any software developers, no marketing, no support? Did you know when you run a business, that doesn't go into the bottom line of the cost to run a business? Did you know that there is a new formula for doing business?
Yeah, it's only the cost of the bandwidth, I guess, and it's like zero.
That's right. So, it is a good time to be in the business space because ladies and gentlemen, it costs nothing to run a business.
Well, I guess if you hire a bunch of free interns, I suppose you can have no payroll.
Well, you can't have free interns no more. That doesn't exist.
That's the only other way I could think that it might work, Todd.
Yeah, I think I was paying my interns like $18 to $21 or something like that an hour. I mean, the interns don't come cheap anymore, especially.
No, as they shouldn't come cheap, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, I see your point.
So anyway, I thought I would just start that off with a little jab this morning and get us going good. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. It's always good to start out the show with a good laugh. And
it's very entertaining. So, that's the skies rain money. It rains.
That's right.
So, Paul Revere, when he rode through the countryside and shouted, "The British are coming, the British are coming," there's been a new saying out there: the RSS is dying. RSS is dying. RSS is dying.
Well, I mean, Todd, I think it's a little bit of a distraction from the bigger picture of what's going on with RSS, because I think it is something that we should talk about. But I don't think that RSS is dying. Which I think is maybe not what the intent was, but that's kind of how it came across. Unless it was kind of just trying to get some attention. It's definitely gotten us talking about it.
Right.
But I mean, RSS is the foundation of podcasting. It will probably always be the foundation of podcasting. But I think the bigger question is RSS going to be something that is used or actively seen by listeners to podcasts? I think is the bigger question. And that's probably where I would like to take the conversation to, but I'm not sure that others may just think magically it's going to be replaced by something new, I guess, or an API or something.
Yeah.
Todd, what's your thought?
Well, Evo's in the chat room. He says, "You can call me out." And I said, it needs to die. Well, the simple fact is no one's going to retool. It's too integrated at this point. Everything is fed, and again, there are certain things that happen within apps and stuff, but still if you look at 95% of apps getting their feed, their directory from Apple, and Google triggering now on Google Podcasts, triggering on the RSS feed, and Spotify powers its back end by RSS. They take an RSS feed to populate their app. Same thing that's going to happen. Well, same thing happens with iHeart. You're not going to get these entities to retool, and here's the thing: we shouldn't get hung up on. It's the means just to get get the episodes out there. It's just
it's just a pathway for metadata, really, Todd. I mean,
Yeah.
for most of these platforms, all they're doing is passing text,
and there's
textual content.
and
That's all
we've
they're doing.
expanded upon RSS with our own tags. Apple has, Google has, Spotify has. They've all come up with their own individual tags, and that's the beauty of it. And even manipulation within content to trigger stuff in apps is possible. Now, I understand that an API sounds sexy, but then there becomes gatekeepers. That's my concern. I don't want any gatekeepers.
Well, APIs are used for very specific purposes to communicate between servers and software. It's not really something that's really makes a lot of sense to use for podcasting. And it's because it's not really a standard thing that people do. People use APIs in tons of different ways. Where RSS is used in a very specific way, everybody understands it. It's an open standard. You can have namespaces, and it's a lot more flexible, right? Everybody knows how it works. Everybody knows how to plug it in. An API is typically something that's fairly customized.
And it's like we have our own API calls, and they are specific to us. And when we add shows to Spotify, or if we delete a show, which we did yesterday, we tested that for the first time.
Yeah,
deleted a show from Spotify with an API.
We're doing that too.
You make a programming call to their system. You have a token. You have the rights to talk to those two systems. It serves a function. So we've got a full blown API system. People can publish into our system without ever. Yeah. They have their own widget and they make it. They don't even have to log into us.
I mean, it's true, Todd, that the whole ecosystem for podcasting could be built on an API. I just don't know that there's a lot of reason to retool everything. Just like what you said, there's just not. RSS works terrific for this purpose, so why change everything?
And here's the thing: you're not going to have to convince me that we need to do something more.
Yeah, right.
Fancy.
It's already done. It works.
You got to convince Apple, and you got to convince Google, and you got to convince all the other players that hey, we need to change ponies here in the middle of the stream. So I just there's going to be and I understand. For example, one of the things we really wanted to be able to do was we built some tags that would trigger players to do certain things, pop up surveys, pop up little comment boxes. But the challenge with that always is it was a good thought, but what ends up happening here is no one's looking at their phone. They got their phone in their pocket, so those little pop-ups and stuff wouldn't have mattered at all. You just everyone think about how you're consuming podcasts. You find it, you hit play, and you go on and do your business. You're not looking at your device. So some of those tags really had, while in theory they were, wow, that's exciting, let's do that, the practicality of it was minimal.
Yeah, and what is actually being accomplished by RSS going away? I'm not sure that I'm really following that. I mean, unless we're talking about the confusion that exists at the listener level.
The listener doesn't have to know anymore. To them, it's transparent to the listener.
Yeah.
The only people that have had to figure out and how to promote RSS again is the folks that have gotten banned from Apple Podcasts.
Right.
They're the only ones that have to do a re-education on what RSS is and how to subscribe. Otherwise, I want people to come to my website and I want them to click on Apple Podcasts, or I want them to click on Google Podcasts or TuneIn or Spotify. I want them to go listen wherever they want to listen with whatever app they want to listen.
I mean, I'm okay with the concept of RSS disappearing from people's web pages and websites. I mean, it would be fine if people just kept including them there.
Well, let's be frank.
But it's okay if it
most podcasters don't have an RSS feed on their website anyway. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I just don't think that as we look at the next generation of podcast listeners, that they're going to even care or even any idea what an RSS feed actually is.
They already don't.
Yeah, exactly.
That's jumped the shark already. They don't care. Yeah. Podcasters care because they know what it takes to run the show, but listeners don't care. They haven't for a long time. Why would they?
Yep. Exactly.
Thank God they don't have to know.
Right. I mean, RSS is really a method for computers to communicate with each other. I mean, that's the purpose of it. It isn't a method for listeners or users to use. But I know in the early days of RSS, it was a really common thing that people would cut and paste RSS feeds.
Well, there's people
because of the feed readers, right?
Rob, people are still hand editing RSS feeds.
Oh, that's crazy, Todd.
I get them every like once a week. Someone says, "Oh, I'm still hand editing my RSS." I'm like, "You're what?"
Yeah, and how many times is that RSS feed breaking on you too?
You know, right? and they're still using tools that were made 10 years ago. I'm like, please, let's help you save some of your life. And really, because we can give your life back. That's 15 minutes you don't have to deal with. You know, so that. If you're hand editing RSS feeds out there, come on. It's not needed anymore. And if you are, and you're hardcore, then beautiful, but wow.
Yeah. So lots of stuff to think about when you're hand coding RSS feeds though.
And I've done it and it sucks.
Yeah, right. And it's really easy to break the feed too.
Easy.
Really easy. Yeah. I mean, like one wrong character, like a comma or an asterisk or something like that. You can break the whole feed. It just won't display.
It's busted. We've had to go to great lengths to stop other plugins and other variety of things that are out there trying to touch the RSS feed too, because a lot of people that are building plugins don't know. So we've almost had to go hardcore and actually putting in blocks to stop apps from doing that. And, we've gotten pretty good at it over the years because we've seen just about everything.
Yeah.
But still, the common one that still screws podcasters is they do the show notes in Word and then they cut and paste right out of their Word document. That bust them every time.
Yeah, right.
All those special characters in Word that transfuse through.
Well, it's the formatting of Word.
Right.
There's all this code that's behind the text, right, that gets added to the RSS feed, and all that is code, right? You don't want to add code to your RSS feed.
No, that's a bad thing.
Yeah, right.
So and we, it's almost 9 out of 10 times we just load. Oh man, you cut and paste out a Word, didn't you? We get one of those a week at least too. So, but you can in that sense though, you can break it. So that's the caution too. Is that's the challenge with RSS is you do something dumb, you can break your feed, but and then for the most part, it's gotten pretty foolproof at this point. But Evil, we're not going to blast you.
No, I think you were onto something that was already happening in the market. It's just, and I think if you look at the bigger picture of RSS, I believe that even if listeners aren't using it for cut and paste around, that RSS is going to become even more important as more and more of these platforms want to have very unique things delivered to them. Like we had to do with Spotify, we had to create a separate RSS feed. I know, Todd, you hate this, and I don't like it either, but we had to create a separate RSS feed just for Spotify. So, I know that, Libsyn does this too. They call them destinations, where they customize the RSS feed for the listening platform. Now, granted, this causes other issues as well, and I know you probably jump in on this because we've talked about this before. But I believe that RSS is going to play an even larger role as you look to the future of podcasting.
Well, we fought it.
Yeah, I know you did.
We fought it and we lost. So what we did is we took the code that we'd used for podcastmirror.com. Mm-hmm. And we slapped it in our internal system, and we had to, we take their feed and we make a copy of it, and that's what we do. It's purely a carbon copy,
right,
of their original feed, and that's what Spotify pulls. But, in the instance that happened here a couple of weeks ago, they wanted to show down, and we were able to, boom, it was off. Instead of them having something on their system, it was on our system. But, that's here nor there. But
well, there's lots of reasons why you might want to have a separate feed to a separate distribution platform. But it's, for us, it was the whole dynamic ad insertion capability. Spotify didn't want to have any content into their platform that had that. So we had to create a separate feed that has a different media file link in it. So
Tom I don't know if Tom is being, Tom Webster's on the watching show, and he says, if there was only something like Feed Validator that tells you if your show is any good. Actually, do not, please, I beg of you, never, ever, ever again use Feed Validator. Don't go to that website. It hasn't been updated since God was a child, literally. So this is not a site you want to use, but you can use podba.se, and of course, full disclosure here, the site that we bought, castfeedvalidator.com. So those are two sites.
Hopefully, you'll never have to use one of those things.
Well,
if you're on a good hosting platform, you shouldn't have to.
Well, it's not true. It's everyone breaks. Say what you will say.
I don't hear about feeds breaking very often anymore if they're hosted on a professional hosting platform.
All the time. All the time.
All right.
All the time. People say, our feeds don't break. Okay. It's because someone has taken a Word document and pasted it.
Sure.
Okay,
yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, but that's not okay.
It's still being broke.
I'll admit it can happen, but it'll happen if you don't know what you're doing, right? Yeah.
So Tom, those are and the tools are not perfect. We've I run one thing through Cast Feed Validator and then run it over at podba.se, and then I'll look between them, and we have our own internal engine that we built that's really super technical, that goes through and gives all these kinds of programming type responses that you would never want a normal human to ever look at. And we run it through those three systems, and we can usually see where there's an issue. If one doesn't catch it, the other does. So I had a guy the other day that he had basically it was just, as you said, a little apostrophe or something to that effect that caused the issue, a little formatting problem. But anyway, so Eva says we lost sight of the if Blueberry owns a feed validator, why do you let people publish an invalid feed? Well, because here's the deal. I'm not doing a check on every run through when someone hits publish. It slows the publishing down way too long. And again, we've done this for years, and we very rarely have a feed go bad. So, we've done everything we can, but really to build that into the system would definitely slow down the publishing piece a bit, because the feed has to be recreated before you can even check it. You have to, the feed has to exist before you can go through and check. But, it's an idea.
I mean, I believe that our feed generation has some code in it that filters out certain.
We do too.
Characters. I know most of the platforms do that, where they filter out certain characters that we know will actually break the feed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's something we bought. It's something we didn't shoehorn in. And again, we've got people publishing multiple ways. We got people publishing via PowerPress. We got people publishing through our generator, through PowerPress sites. So there's 25 ways to skin a cat here.
Yeah.
But and much to my chagrin, Rob, it's like these multiple destination feeds.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not a fan of having 10 feeds for one show going to different destinations. I'm absolutely not. It should be one feed for all, and it works. Now if you want to put different content, of course, then you create a new feed. But I just still feel, I'm very strongly opinionated here, that you don't need one feed for every destination, because all this stuff can layer on top of one another and work just fine. You can have the Spotify tags in there. You can have the Apple tags, Google tags, all that stuff works in a single feed. And the systems that they have are smart enough to discern between them. They use a priority system. So there's no need to have 10 destination feeds.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
And we don't have that either on the Spreaker platform. I believe there's only there's only 2 different feeds, I believe. So we're kind of more on your end of the spectrum here, Todd.
Yeah.
We're not creating separate feeds for every platform.
Because when someone leaves, then you got to do 10 redirects. Why would you have to do 10 redirects? It's, that just adds load. It's just, no, you don't need that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So anyway, we've talked RSS to death. And Eva says we're not looking towards the future. Well, I don't know. I still think that, I don't foresee a change in anywhere in the near future.
What is to be gained by changing it?
Yeah,
that's the bigger question.
Well,
right?
the caution is do we create gatekeepers?
Yeah, well, that, and also I think when you move down that path, you start creating more proprietary distribution type of technologies, right? So you start creating a situation where you're creating walled gardens more and more. So,
someone has to give me a compelling reason why this is a good idea. What is the benefit to the listener? This is where we have to really look at. Where does the listener get a benefit from a change from this? And I just don't see it at this point. So,
Todd, the only possible benefit would be as if each individual platform had very specific and unique data needs, right? That they would need an API for, where there's a complete data exchange back and forth that happens. And to some degree, that's happening more and more. We're getting data back from platforms like, around metrics and play counts and stuff. We're getting that back from
and some of the some of this
Spotify. Is, we're getting it back from YouTube. We're getting data passing back and forth. Now that's one benefit of an API.
But
RSS,
But if you look at it though, you look at the RAD initiative. If RAD continues to move forward, which they're trying to do, then it's really, what is that? That doesn't benefit the listener though. That benefits the podcaster and the advertisers with getting more detailed play tracking. So that's what that does. That doesn't benefit the listener. Matter of fact, it
could, Todd. It could. I mean, it helps the content creator maybe understand the listener behavior of the content that's being produced, and maybe they can find out where people are dropping out. It's kind of like what Apple's doing, right, with the timeline.
Yeah.
It could be a little bit, help with the content production. Maybe if you've got
in the
too long of an intro, people are dropping out. You can kind of tweak it to get more listeners.
That might be an end result, but that is not the goal of RAD.
No, it's not. You're right. Purely from a business perspective.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Right.
There was something that was the top of I just lost a train of thought. I was going to flip us here to a new topic. What triggered me to think of it? Oh my God, it'll come to me. Should have had. See, this is where when we're just starting the show and we never have any prep, where we just go.
But for some reason, Todd, we always make it to 90 minutes.
Yeah, we do. We absolutely do.
Yeah.
There was what the heck was it? You had some topics you wanted to talk about too, yeah?
I think and some of these may be duplicate to what we've talked about in the past to some degree is around kind of the renewed attention around donations.
Oh,
right. And what's been happening with that, and the kind of enthusiasm that's come back to donations. Not even to the point of Patreon models, right? I mean, it's close to Patreon, but it's like Patreon 1.0 is where we're at right now, not 2.0, which is where the industry's been for like the last 5 years.
Right.
But now all of a sudden, donation models is the hot business model, and I'm a little skeptical, Todd, of this, and it's not because I wouldn't like the donation models to work. I'm just not sure that it. I mean, it's kind of proven over the years that it actually doesn't work. Right, a straight donation model may work to some degree, and I know, Todd, you jumped in on this on Facebook quite a bit this week, talking about PayPal. Right, people have been using PayPal to do donation models since the beginning of time.
Right.
So this isn't a revolution. I guess the only thing that's maybe a little different here is that it appears that there's kind of like some donation process sharing that's going on, and maybe a common protocol that's going to be implemented in listening apps. But why don't you tell us your thoughts on this, Todd?
Well, let me bring a page up here. This page hadn't been updated since 2011, and I actually updated it this week because it was kind of prompted to. This is the page on my website where people can go to donate, and I mentioned it on every episode of Geek News Central. This is the place to go to donate. Now, granted, I have a sponsor that's been with me for 14 years, and so I'm not in a desperate situation to have people rack the cash register up and doing donations to me. So, but over the years, I've built enough support that essentially my blogging bill and the person that assists me with the production of my show, I can pay that bill from that. And I got a fairly large audience, but this, people are still, some people are better at doing Patreon, doing PayPal. I don't offer any added value. It's just, we have some titles we give people if they're at a certain level and they're Hawaiian in nature. And then I give, when people get to a certain donation status, they get something back. Matter of fact, they basically, as they get to $1,000 worth of donations, they get this beautiful Hawaiian, it's not a spear, but it's a club, and with the shark's teeth in it, and it's really nice, and it's expensive. So I give a portion of the donation back in the gift I give back. But it's worked for me. Now, we've had at least from a company standpoint, we've had our ability for podcasters add a PayPal link or a URL to a fundraiser page for 4 or 5 years. And I think there's 5 or 6 apps that actually use it, that actually implemented it. I even think Marco had actually implemented. I don't know if he even remembers, but we're pretty sure that PayPal or that's supported in Overcast. We're gonna have to go back and check that, so don't quote me on that. But we looked at the total number of podcasters that are using that, and it's like out of our total user base, 5% that are actually have some sort of a PayPal link in their configuration. Now maybe they've missed it and don't see it, but it's pretty obvious in the setup that you can add that there. I don't know. I just I think the place to donate is on a person's webpage or on a Patreon page. We'll see if it works. We'll see. I hope it does. I hope it works. I hope it works well. And if it does, if Marco's solution works, then great. It can't hurt. But I'm also at the same reality point that listeners typically, it's very hard to get them to donate. It's just too much free out there.
Yeah. Well, that, and plus, I mean, that's why Patreon moved to this newer model, which is having a kind of like what you've done, Todd. You've created almost like packages that people basically buy into, right? I mean, even to the point where they get things for their sponsorship, like a T-shirt, or they get bonus content or something. There's some other value exchange that happens other than just giving money, right? So that's actually, from what I've heard, that's actually worked a little bit better, because it's almost like that listener is actually buying something, not so much just giving money, which a certain percentage, I agree with you, a certain percentage are are going to do that. They just feel a compelling need to do that, and that is fantastic. And that's what this is going to enable. And I think it's certainly good. But the evolution of it will, I believe, move more towards what we see with Patreon today. And if we're going to build something outside of Patreon here, which is more integrated into the fabric of the ecosystem, that may be where it ultimately goes to.
You know, I had a listener of mine about 3-4 weeks ago. He sent me an email because I'd been talking about my call it insiders that do support the show.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, why don't you, because I was asking, let's ramp this up a little bit. I was, actually being a little more aggressive in my request for donations on the show. And he says, why don't we go after micro donations? And he says, he did the math for me. He says, if every listener or if X number of listeners donated 50 cents a month, and he mathed it out and it looks really good on paper, and matter of fact, so good that literally I could do a lot of crazy things if it worked. Like hire a full-time person for this, for the show. I really, it could scale out well based on my particular audience size. But I brought it up in the show. I said, what do you guys think about 50 cents a month, as a model? And crickets, I didn't get an email one back on it from the audience that A or nay. There was no positives or negatives. No one responded. So for me, it was just like, well, obviously they don't care. But if I also look at it from a different perspective, if someone was donating 50 cents every month, I'd eat 10 cents of that in PayPal processing fees. So it really doesn't scale unless someone gives a one-time donation for the whole year at 50 cents a month, which seems like that would make a lot more sense. But I have started where people come in at $2, and the way I say is 6.7 cents a day, you can support the show, and so some people are just better at raising listener support. That's read somewhere, someone was doing like 50 grand a month in listener support, and that's like, yeah,
well, that's awesome.
That's awesome. And let me go listen to that show and figure out their model, I'm serious. I'm going to go listen to their show and see what they're doing. What's engaging their audience to be that big of a contributor.
That,
right.
Yeah, right.
That content should be rocking at $50,000 a month. That's some serious, that's serious cash. Matter of fact, to the point where you need an accountant.
So is the No Agenda show with Adam Curry, are they doing a donation model too?
Completely.
I don't believe they take any advertising, right?
No advertising. It's 100% listener donation, but they spend a lot of time on it. They have two segments of their 2-hour and 40-minute show that is dedicated to, number one, recognizing those that gave donations, I believe $250 and above. And it seems like every show there is a number of those. And sometimes people come in with some wowza amounts. And then they have another segment that's $250 and below. But that's their entire model. And on their 10th anniversary, I think their 10th anniversary show, Rob, they had a dry spell afterwards, but they raised some money. It was like 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 500, 500, 500, 500. It was
so how'd they do it, Todd?
They basically, it's a value for value model. If you think the show's worth money, pay us. And if you don't think, don't. And then they do, they do theirs is interesting. If you donate $1,000, you become a knight of the No Agenda Roundtable. And you get a ring, an actual ring, that is the knight's ring for you having achieved $1,000. Now it goes higher. And it's all based on, knights, earls, and they give digital equivalences of controlled lands, and it's quite a peerage. It's a very interesting model, and it was brilliant how they set it up. And then if you give more than $250, I think or $350, you become an executive producer for that show. You are actually named. It's credits. You're an executive. You can use that on your bio. I mean, it's a whole value for value, and they're very, very good at it. But they do a show that probably takes them 25 hours of prep.
Yeah.
To do
There's
2.5 hours.
Going into that show.
They have serious prep.
What kind of technology do they use to actually collect the donations?
PayPal checks, everything. Yeah, almost any type of payment method they'll take. I don't think they do bank transfers, but they do PayPal. They do checks. They do some system over in Europe makes it easy to. So they've got 2 or 3 different ways that people can contribute. Mostly PayPal though. And they have a specific site set up for donations only. But noagenda.com, for those of you that are curious, or noagendashow.com, just Google No Agenda Show.
Can you pull that up on the screen?
So
people watching this can see it?
But they do it the best. I don't see no one, well, in this $50,000 a month group, if they're truly raising that type of money, they're the king of the hills. And Rob, they have an absolutely incredible. The No Agenda Show has an absolutely incredible, fancy website.
Yeah, right.
They do. That's a modern design, works great.
Well, as I recall, Adam did not have a real fancy website in the early days.
No.
He was doing this either. It's like,
so, they've got a show for their peerage, and then they've got, and then every show has a subdomain. So, for example, that didn't even load. Isn't that nice? So they have their folks help them with their show notes. They've got an app. People build this stuff for them. They do stuff on torrents. It goes on and on and on. So again, I don't even find. Oh, here's our donation link.
Yeah, I found it here.
So again, another fancy page. You got layaway plans for knighthood. I mean, just it works. And if they can do it with
Go ahead, Pat. I'm sorry.
And if they can do it for this, it just takes work. But that's the model they started off with. And they use weird numbers, 33.33, 8888, and they're like, when a donation comes in for 8888, they say, oh, boobs, it's just, that's what they do. It's just they have little sayings, little catches, they got tunes. Every podcaster, you may not agree with the content, but you should listen to at least 1 or 2 of their episodes. And how they do it. If you want to have a donation model and come up with something.
Yeah, I'm on their page right now, and they definitely have applied a lot of creativity to this. They've got free podcast license offers for $3.33 donation. You'll be gifted an authentic podcasting license.
Right.
Signed by the Podfather.
He started
Adam
this
Curry.
Years ago. Yeah. When he was.
And he's got all sorts of different packages that you could, each person's going to be different. They're going to connect with something here. And that's what he's creating, is lots of different ways that people would connect with donations.
And when they don't donate, when people don't donate, they call them on it. They call their audience out. I mean, it's like, it's amazing. Well, we didn't get no donations this week. This sucks. Maybe we shouldn't. They're just, it's like most audiences would revolt, but they're merciless. They're like, well, I guess you guys don't care about us. And they don't use those words. They have their own way of doing it that,
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
but you have to listen to 4 or 5 episodes when they have a down, and it's kind of like, oh well, okay, you know, guess I'm not
Right.
paying the rent this month. You know that. And I love Adam,
Well,
I really do, and John is is quirky in his own way.
oh yeah.
But they fight like Rob. These two cuss at each other, and it's like two married. It's like an old married couple. Is what it's like.
Yeah, right. I mean, John is such a curmudgeon. He's like, it's like, I mean, he's a great podcaster though. I mean,
Yeah.
he's done a lot of stuff with Leo Laporte over the years, and he's had his own many video shows that he's done over the years too. So he's definitely an experienced podcaster. No question about it.
Adam's got incredible chops, incredibly talented. He'd be successful in anything he does in audio, but it's an amazing model. So no one does it better than them. And of course, Adam was, I heard, because I haven't caught up to the episodes, I'm behind. He was all pissed off about Apple Podcasts dropping, and basically doing it. And he doesn't take a side. He just brought up the same thing we brought up about Apple controlling so much of the ecosphere when it comes to the directory. He actually talked about relaunching another directory in an episode. So, again, it's about this space originated in, and people need to continue to remember this is no gatekeepers.
Right.
And we keep that in mind, I think we'll be good.
And Todd, I think the topic that you probably wanted to talk about maybe today, and maybe it was something different than this, but it was probably the two things that happened this past week where Apple actually fixed its gateway to Podcast Connect.
Oh, thank God.
And then also the crackdown on podcast titles that's been happening in the space this week.
It's big. Big crackdown.
Yeah.
So if you haven't heard, and you've been living just day to day and not paying attention to what's going on in the space, your title is your title. Your author is your author. A title is not a title with a description. A title is not a title.
Or a string of a bunch of spammy keywords either.
Right. It's not the new media show with Todd Cochran and Rob Greenlee. Ban. It's new media show is the title, and the author can be Todd Cochran and Rob Greenlee. It can't be Todd Cochran and the gang. It can't be Todd Cochran and listen to my show because I'm going to make you $1 million. No. They are bringing, and they're just delisting. They're deactivating shows and sending them a note saying, sorry, you're out.
Todd, I'm not sure that I agree with what they're doing when it comes to the show name with a person's name. That's a common principle that's been around radio for years. It's been I'm just not sure that is right for them to do that.
I got to thinking about this a little bit, and I thought, okay, we knew they've been telling us publicly. They've told podcasters in their newsletters, don't do this. And it's been a while since like maybe a year ago, they warned podcasters.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get to thinking a little bit, okay, why? And I think they've got some more staff. I think they've added to the team over there because I'm talking to some new people that I haven't talked to in the past. And so what has changed? Well, Google has come on the scene. So not every service, and I'm reaching here, so I might be completely wrong, but let's think about this. Most services, the title of your show, like if you're on WordPress, you can name your website one thing and your show another in your feed. But not every service allows that. So your site title is what the title of your feed is. So is this a way to make Google Podcast search less relevant?
I would say it probably could be. I think that perspective on this is, it also puts a little more pressure, I think, on the hosting platforms to do the opposite of what we were talking about earlier, which is create unique feeds just for Apple too.
Well, at the same point,
there's a danger of that, right?
Right.
So let's say a content producer, it's okay to have, This Week in Podcasting with Todd Cochran
right
in the feed in Spotify, but it's not okay to have it in Apple.
Right.
How do you manage that situation?
Well,
so, if you change it in Apple, it's going to impact Spotify.
But you've already, the existing creators out there, to rework this is going to be very, very painful. Mm-hmm. If you want, for the existing, and maybe Rob Walsh got it right the whole time in having 10 feeds. I hope
this is the path that we're going to head down, where each of these platforms kind of determines what's unique about their particular platform as opposed to the industry overall. Then that puts us as hosts in a situation as, well, how do we manage the needs of these shows? I think there's also an issue that I see too, is character limits. That's the other part of it too. Is there character limits of what's displayed in Apple too? How long can your show name be?
Right.
I don't know if there's a factor involved here with that too.
So I just, I'm a little, we're just gonna have to ask Apple why all of a sudden. And here's the problem too, is you've got shows in the top 10, top 100 that are on the, if you go into the list, and they're not in compliance with some of these guidelines.
Yep. Are those shows going to get taken down?
That's the question. Or are they going to be forced to change? Have they been told you have to change your title? This is I don't know if Apple's helping themselves here on this. So again, I'm always looking at, I'm trying to figure out, okay, what's the angle, why? And there might be a very good reason for it. Maybe but because you can only search the title and the author name. Those are only two things you can search. Those are the two searchable fields when you search for a show in Apple Podcasts. That's it. That's the only thing you can use to search. So,
yeah. Todd, if you think about it, your supposition of motivation why Apple might want to do this may exactly be what you were saying. If you think about one of the things that Google would use that title as a search indexing metadata, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're putting other keywords in there, that's typically Google would look at those other keywords.
That's a fact.
And bring up a more relevant result based on what that string of text would be, right?
And if someone doesn't have a robust website strategy and they just have a show, just have a show and no website, which a lot of podcasters do today, there's an impact there. So again,
it's probably a question for Google. Does this change that Apple's imposing on the industry impact their ability to generate search results?
Well, the shows that are coming to us, I'm asking them, what was your show name and what is your new show name title? Mm-hmm. And I'm copying those down, and I did a Google search and I did a screen cap, and now I'm waiting. I'm waiting to see how it changes on the Google side. Again, I'm speculating here. I might be completely off.
Well, Todd, I think it would impact it. I don't think that your supposition is incorrect. I think it could impact it. Because it's not giving as much data to Google to index that show, mm-hmm. right? Because if shows we're putting in, it's kind of a spam methodology is to keyword stuff a particular data field, right?
And originally, I think this is why Apple cracked down, is because we had jokers that were doing, a title, and then they would put, 100 characters beyond with a description, title semicolon description.
Or other famous people's names too. I've seen a lot of shows will put in there, the name of the show and then like a whole list of their famous guests.
Yep. And
names across there.
And a little trick some shows have done in the past is in order to get a little bigger reach and get some more juice out of an episode is they've replaced the GUIDs on podcast post.
Yeah.
And my daughter's cat just ran in here like he's hunting for something. He's looking out the window. Sorry, did you guys hear the jingle, jingle, jingle?
Yeah.
Anyway, so there was one show out of Israel that got delisted because they were accused of changing GUIDs. When we went into our database and we looked, because we pull their feed, and we looked at the GUID values, because if they had changed the GUIDs on the feed, we'd have had the episodes twice. Our system would have repulled, and we'd have had double listings for those episodes. We went into our database and looked. There was no double GUIDs. There was not double pulls of episodes. So we went back to the podcast and said, listen, and she was running 2 other shows on the same site, and the other 2 shows were fine. I said, something else is going on here. You need to go back and re-ask Apple, because we don't see because I went through, did you have a tool? Did you have any plugins? And I went and I found the line of stuff that would cause someone to change a GUID. And for those of you who don't know, when in an RSS feed, the GUID is kind of like the master identifier of an episode. That GUID is a long string of characters that is generated by a variety of methods, but that GUID doesn't change. It stays the same. If you edit the episode, the GUID still stays the same. If you replace the audio, the GUID stays the same. So we told her, go back, but Apple said, nope, that feed can never be submitted again. You have to make a new feed and submit. So we're like, what? This is the first time we've ever heard that. So imagine, Rob, he's on that podcaster's on your systems, accused of GUID changing, and they're told, no, you need a new RSS feed. How do you guys? I know how we handle it, but where do you guys would be like scratching your head because your system's not set up that way. So we still don't have a resolution on that. Now that's just a single show that got accused of this GUID changing, but I've known. Now it's one thing to repost a show. It's illegal. You can repost an episode, write a new title, write new show notes, repost. There's nothing wrong with reposting, but don't cut and paste or make a change to GUID tag don't make a change to GUID in the blog post.
Yeah. Todd, I did hear, not to change the subject too far from this, but that Spotify will basically, and I don't know if I mentioned this on the show before, but if you make a change to your show when you publish it, or you change like your cover art or your album art or anything like that, if you change the file name, Spotify will pick it up.
Within an episode.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. So it'll scan the feed. If it picks up a file name change,
let me think about that for a second.
It'll update that.
So if someone's already, let's think about how the system works. So if you've already gotten an episode, and I changed the file name in the feed,
yep,
that will not re-download if I've already gotten that episode delivered. Isn't that the way it works with will the podcatchers replace it? I don't think so.
I know Spotify told me that if the file name is changed in the feed,
they'll update it.
They'll download another copy of that episode.
But okay, so But for those,
and,
let's just think,
and,
okay, that's good.
And refresh the cache they have of your show.
That's good, but what happens? Let me just remember. No, so if you have published an episode and you put a new episode, or within the same episode, you change the name of the file. If the file's already been delivered for the episode in a normal podcatcher, that won't be redelivered. Only for people that are actively listening will get the new file. Someone correct me if I'm wrong.
I think in a normal situation where there's not a caching involved, right? That person would just get that new file from the point that it got refreshed.
Yeah.
So on a pass-through type of situation, like with Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, it's just going to pass through, right? But when you have a platform that's caching episodes,
right.
distributing, what you need to do is refresh that cached copy.
Makes sense.
That's in their system. So, yeah, because I asked about that because we have people that will upload a updated version of their episode, and we were trying to figure out a pathway for people to update the content that's in the cache.
Yeah.
So
that's
how to do it.
One thing, just so as everyone, there's some commentary going on in the chat room. So for my site, when I write an episode title on my website, I have the option when I publish to change the title of the episode. We're not talking about the show, title of the episode that goes in the feed. I can have one thing on the website, another thing that goes in the feed. Those don't have to be married. Sometimes I allow it to go where it's exactly the same. So for this show, it might say RSS is dying, and then but I can change that based upon when I post. And the reason for that is I write for Google, and because generally you can't search for a specific episode on most podcast players or podcatchers. And you can optimize, if you want to, you can optimize an episode with the hope that someone's going to find that specific episode, but you don't have to have this same data in what Google's going to index. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And I've always thought that it could be and can be, and the SEO would only be for the app, because I don't think you're going to get any additional SEO from Google out of the feed. But I don't know, with Google doing the stuff they're doing now, we're just going to have to watch this. Some black hat is going to come out and tell us exactly what we need to do for Google.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, So yeah, this crackdown, and because I was like, wow, we've gotten a lot of these this week, and I reached out to you and Rob Walsh. I said, are you guys seeing an increase on shows getting thrown to the curb? And you both are like, oh yeah.
yeah. Definitely a crackdown, and it really came out of the blue. I mean, something changed all of a sudden.
It started Friday of last week, where all started getting, and then this week, and I don't know. It's just maybe I don't know how. That's a lot of shows to have to review.
Mm-hmm.
But if they got a tool in their system or something they're using now, maybe they got a new tool.
Yeah, could be. I mean, it probably wouldn't be a hard thing to write to actually identify those. But I guess Amazon, is caching flash briefings. So I read that on Pod News.
So would that be an issue? Flash briefings are here today, gone tomorrow. So does it matter?
If you're using dynamic ad insertion, right?
Oh yeah,
it's going to break that.
It's less than 1% anyway, Rob. So stay calm.
I know.
Yeah, I know. But
I know.
So we just have to go to Amazon and say, how can we force it not to cache? It's just another issue we're going to have to bring up with and I find Amazon pretty open to, if they listen, they really do. They take input. So, and their team are very, very accessible.
Well, we have to keep pushing on these companies to not cache. not cache, copies. Some are going to do it. That's certainly the case. But fortunately, there's not that many of them that are doing it right now, and we just have to keep it from growing.
So I did my I did the interview with the young man from that was not happy with me being not happy about a certain entity submitting shows to Apple Podcast and a few other things. So we had a very good interview, and I think the audio quality on the beginning of the interview was pretty bad. I don't know exactly what was going on there, but let me just say this: I think what we have. And for those of you that are new to podcasting or to they've been in the podcasting space for a while, we really need everyone's help. We need to make sure that content creators that are coming into the space have some perspective on why the podcasting space is the way it is. We're quirky. We have things that are different that doesn't exist anywhere else. And it's, again, because of this no gatekeeper policy. And that it's unique because we can have our own websites. We can have our own RSS feed. We can have our own Apple Podcast account listings. Yeah. All this stuff we can control if we so choose to on our own, really without anybody's interference. You don't need Blueberry. You don't need Spreaker. You can do this if you want. There's ways to do this without any third-party tools.
And there are plenty of people doing that. I would say probably a quarter of the podcasting space is self-hosted podcasts.
And they might even be hand-rolling their feeds, which is fine too, or using a tool. So again,
there's software tools that help you create your RSS feed.
Yeah. The key here is you don't have to be codependent upon anybody. And that is the true beauty of this space. And although those of us that are, most of you listening already know this, but these new content creators don't. They don't get that. And we just need to make sure that they know that those options are available to them if they so choose to, in basically be truly creator first. So
Todd, I think it's this balance between ease and doing the hard work, right?
Right.
It seems like that it's appealing to a lot of these new podcasters to utilize a platform that makes it so easy. They don't have to really do much. They don't have to acquire any equipment. They can just use their mobile phones for everything.
Yep.
It's so appealing to do that. But at the end of the day, though, that's not what built this medium. What built this medium is people putting in the time and the effort to do what it takes to make what they do successful. It's another matter to come in and just play around and have a fun show or do a show with some friends or something like that, which has always been around in this medium. But the attraction of ease of production can be a little delusional in a way, right?
It's not delusional. Yeah. It's just, and I don't care how people create content. You want to do it that way, it's great. There's no rules.
Yeah, but it comes with some trade-offs.
Well,
right?
I just want people to be educated that here's the lay of the land and here's what you should think about. Because 90% of those shows are going to be, their buddy and their friend or girlfriend or whatever having a discussion.
Yeah.
And
there's a place for that, but it depends on how serious you are about being a podcaster too.
So again, and I think the good thing is there's something here for everyone, but I just I want to make sure that these new creators are getting that message instead of this, grandiose hype that we're gonna,
Yeah. Well, and to realize that you are putting yourself into a more of a proprietary ecosystem if you are totally attracted by what's the easiest to do. Now, granted, we all, Todd, you and I want to create platforms that make it easier and easier for people to do this. But we also want to make a platform that's supportive of the basic principles that have built success for people that have preceded these content providers.
But I'm also not, Rob, you and I are the old guys here, so we also have to be careful in that we don't put ourselves into you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And so I think that we're cognizant of the what the added value for them is, and I think though that we just have to do a job of making sure that they understand the reasoning. And when I had the discussion with him, when I shared my point of view, he's like, "Oh, I got it," and it wasn't, it was a little confrontational on Facebook, and because the type text never can invoke the emotion, and usually when two people talk to another, they're not screaming at each other from in the microphone.
Right.
And I think that the only displeasure I invoked on him was he had done a 5-minute pre-show talking about me before the interview started, and I based upon everything that had transpired already, I was a little disgruntled with him on that, and I let him know that because there was no way I could address in the interview what he had said. So I basically just gave him my perspective as a creator, more as a creator than a business owner. And a little of the business stuff came in too, but I think if we all continue to leave our egos at the door and make sure that we all know that we're just in here doing the grind, they have a better perspective on where we're coming from.
I mean, I actually listened to it, and I listened to his pre comments before you were brought into the show, and I thought he was fair with you and kind of setting you up. He really didn't know that much about you or what your background was or anything.
I didn't know that.
So he really didn't have much to share. He didn't have much to share about you. Yeah.
So I didn't. And again, that's obvious too. Is that you have a whole new, it's basically. Rob, it's it's classic. It's like, who are you? Them looking at me like, you're just some dude, right? And you got to respect that. They don't know the space, and it doesn't hurt my ego at all. Come on, it's just the way it is.
Right.
So I think what we have to do is we just have to be more vocal with these communities and everyone, and I'm sharing this with everyone so that those of you that agree or disagree can at least go out there and make your own commentary on this and share your thoughts. Yeah. So, but anyway, that was kind of my fun for the week was having the interview with him. So I was wiped out. I had been on an 1.5-hour phone call. I had like ridiculous. I got up at 3:00 in the morning or something, and we started the interview at like 5:30 or 6 my time, and I was, believe it or not, I needed a Red Bull because I was dragging. I came right off one call, went into the other, and but I guess it turned out all right. I don't like to even listen to the interviews that I do. Sometimes it makes me cringe. It is what it is. It's a constant stream of thought, and you hope it all comes out good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to be going to a podcasting conference, and you're a sponsor of it too, the Dragon Con down in Atlanta here in a couple of weeks. So
good for you.
Down there. Yeah. It'll be the first time for me. I don't know if you've ever been.
I have not been to Dragon Con.
Dragon Con.
No.
And they've got a 4-day podcasting track.
Yep.
It's incredible how much content how many panels that they have, and it's a lot bigger deal than I had realized prior.
And it's grown. Their podcasting panel continues to grow over the years as well. So, but this is an event that's been going on almost since the beginning of podcasting too. This is a long run event.
Well, there's like 88,000 people that descend on downtown Atlanta.
Really? It's that big? 88,000 go to Dragon
Thousand
Con?
people. Yeah. I mean, I
Oh,
had a really hard time getting a hotel. I had to stay like 20 minutes, away from the conference hotel because they were all booked up.
so are you
All
staying
the
like at a
hotels.
Motel 6 out on the back 40?
Yeah, out by the airport. Yeah, exactly. So I have to. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to take an Uber into the conference every day. But yeah, 4 days.
Wow. Well, I'm getting on an airplane today. First stop is Texas. So I'm going to be eating some country fried steak tomorrow and, partaking of a Texas food fair.
Yeah,
Cannot wait. And then, so that's starting for a 2-week road trip for me.
yeah,
And an absolutely insane schedule as normal when I do these
yep,
road runs.
yeah,
Yeah, Rick,
yeah.
that was the guy that did the YouTube rant about me. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I went and looked his show up in iTunes or Apple Podcasts. I didn't see it there. So
Really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. His show was not listed.
Was he that new?
I don't know. He's got a network of like 4 different shows.
Oh,
I didn't see his shows. The only place I could find his show was on Anchor.
well, it's hard to find anything external of that site, so I'm not going to give him more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rob, there's something in the back of my brain I wanted to talk about that it's completely I've completely lost it. I don't know what it was. Um, it's driving me crazy here. I got to see. I should have wrote it down. I should have made myself a little note during the show. As soon as we finish, I'm going to go
So was it something that came up in Slack?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I can't remember. But anyway, it's one of those things where you have this fleeting thought, oh, that would be a good thing to talk about during the show. Then you forget. So it's I guess it's a sign of old age.
Wow. I don't know about that.
So I guess maybe I can talk a little bit. We've internally, next week is another big week for us on the certification process for IAB. So hopefully by the end of next week, we will have all of our data to them, and they'll have everything that they need and the final round of questions answered. And had a whole bunch of people out on vacation, and everyone's going to be back in the office pretty much on Monday. And I got a new group of interns coming in, but so then the clock starts for them going through and doing the final look through, and we'll see where we end up.
Yeah, we're starting through the process too. I mean, we haven't actually officially started yet, but yeah, I saw the bill for it. Talk about sticker shock.
Well, it's the way I look at it is it's one third the price of actually maybe 1/4 of the price of an MRC certification. So MRC is that's a bigger gulp. I mean, that's multiple gulps of. You have got to be kidding me. So yeah, the bill, the IB bill was big, but I think what it, the depth that this team has went to, I understand. I understand why it's costing what it's costing. They're putting some serious hours into
it takes time.
this, yeah. And I don't know what they charge per hour as an accounting firm, but it's got to be on the upper end of some legal firms based upon, the bill here. So I think the challenge is going to be is I wonder if some podcasting companies are going to not be able to afford this. Well, first of all, they have to be an IB member first,
which is another big check.
Mm-hmm. So that's not an insignificant annual bill.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Rob, by the way, did you know that companies can run with expenses, no expenses whatsoever.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It's only bandwidth is
It's
what you
only
have to pay for,
bandwidth
and it's
is
only like a penny or something like
right.
that. I think is what I heard.
That's right. It's there's no, it doesn't cost anything to do hosting and the business that runs around it. There's no expenses there. I just keep bringing that up because it's just so ridiculous. So ridiculous.
Well, it's to drive a certain agenda, Todd, and
of course
to say,
it's driving
you
it.
shouldn't, podcasters shouldn't pay for their hosting, right? Because they're not really getting anything of value, are they?
Yeah, nothing,
right?
No value, no tech support, no tools, no, they're getting nothing of value. I'm really being cynical here. It's
just a marketing thing. It's a way to spin the conversation to look appealing to a certain platform.
Rick was asking, are you going as a vendor to Dragon Con, or are you just going to be on one of the panels? Yeah,
I'm on 3 panels, plus we are a sponsor of it with Blueberry.
We didn't get asked to be on a panel. Interesting. Of course, I don't think I asked to be on a panel either, to be fair.
You have to ask gently,
oh,
are there speaking opportunities?
Yeah,
because if I'm going to go, I want to be able to speak.
Yeah, we didn't ask. So no bad feelings.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff popping up. We got the sponsor packet from PodCon. Did you guys get that?
I have not got that yet.
Yeah, Mackenzie's got it. She hasn't shared with me the amounts though, but it is available on the street. She had to be pretty persistent to get it.
Ah, okay. Well, I've been trading emails with them. I just haven't got that from them yet.
Yeah, so so that's available, and the top sponsor spot's $25,000, I think. So you can go ahead and grab that, Rob, if you want.
No, I think I'm going to save that for the certification. No, just kidding.
So, and then what else? Yeah, so the 2 or 3 events, and we were actually hearing from some WordPress or WordCamp folks are thinking about doing, because if there's something they say, hey, we want some sponsor money. Okay, what are you doing? What's your podcasting track look like? And then we're going to add some. And I'm like, that's a quick reaction.
Well, I am going to be manning a booth down at the TechCrunch Disrupt down in San Francisco.
You're going to go down to that, huh?
On the 5th through the 7th. So I'm going to have a booth down there for that.
Ouch,
so,
I bet you that was pricey.
Well, we got into a sponsor situation with them. So we're like a bronze sponsor of the event.
Okay, nice.
Down there. So I'm going to be setting up a little booth down there and spending 3 or 4 days, or actually I think it's like 3 days down there.
Yeah.
Down at the Moscone West room down there, down in downtown San Francisco.
All right.
So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. And I'm going to be living out of a suitcase. And the next show we do, you're going to host it on this coming Saturday.
I'm going to host a show all by myself.
Well, no, I'm going to join you, but I'll.
Oh, you are. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, streaming it using Spreaker. Then.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, because yeah. Matter of fact, I made sure my mic is in my bag, my ATR 2100.
There you go.
So I'll have that, and yeah, this trip is a little nuts. So I don't even know what hotel I'm going to be in at that point, but we'll figure it out.
Okay. All right.
So what else have I got? I don't think I've got much more. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff.
Something else going on.
Well, I didn't even load Pod News to see what was going on there. It's something that would tickle my fancy. Let's see here. What else? Oh, there's a couple of sites that have launched. A little weird. Have you heard about Podkite?
I have heard the name. Yes.
It's basically a ranking site. They are looking at well, they're they're making some pretty. To me, I questioned some of the stuff that they were doing, but you can put on the Podkite site, you can put a show name in, and it will show the Apple and Google ranking, and somehow that they're making some sort of extended claim that it talks about the they're not saying downloads, but they're trying to make the assertion that if you've been pumping your numbers and you're ranked 562 on Apple, that you're going to have some explaining to do. And I thought, no, not exactly, because lots of big shows, really big shows, never break into the top 200. There's shows that are doing very, very well and have been for a long time. And I just don't think this Apple ranking, in all honesty, means that much. The top 10, top 100, maybe the top 10 do, but I don't know. I've always had this wrinkled my nose when someone says, "Oh, I'm the top 200," and I'm like, does it matter? Does that make it?
Yeah, and what does it really mean when it's? I mean, what does the ranking mean? I mean, what's it based on?
Well,
it doesn't really say, does it?
Let me see if I can find my. Let's find this show. Let's go for new media show.
Yeah, I've actually pulled it up here.
Let's see if I can get it to load. Okay, there we go. New media show. And okay, so here's what it is. Top ranking. We're currently number 266 in Apple Podcast, and we've been as high as 207. And so, what does that really mean?
I don't know what that means. I have no idea what it means.
And I guess that you can then get extended data on Google and it's got just my name. Your name is in the metadata, so they're not picking up some metadata too. Let me go ahead and look at Geek News Central. Daniel had some commentary on it, of course. I think he didn't have a lot of, and I was talking about Daniel J. Lewis. Let's see if it even finds my show. There we go. Geek News Central Audio. So that show's ranked number 257 on Apple Podcasts, as high as 198. It's 198 in Canada, 221 in Australia. Again, it's I don't know. I don't ask for reviews on my show ever. So I'm not, and there's a way you can continue here. I'm a producer or publisher, and then you can sign up and get more data. They've got a place here for advertisers and for podcasters. So explore your Apple Podcast rankings in 28 countries, track your rankings in Google Podcasts, track and compare the podcasts they care about, get email alerts when your podcasts are trending or featured, find the least competitive categories. So I guess it's free, and it gives a combined chart where you're at in Google Podcasts and where you are in Apple Podcasts. So, and they're saying that this is a PodTrack replacement to their top 10. And I don't necessarily agree on that. But anyway, Podkite. There's another one too that's been out for a while.
Well, it's this effort to try and get rankings of podcasts, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not clear what it's based on. I mean, it needs to be specified. Is it, downloads? Is it specified for reviews? Is it specified for subscriptions? What's the criteria for the ranking?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. So I think this is real similar to what Daniel does with his service too. He has a service that tracks ranking as well. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's why he made some comments about it. But anyway, hey, Rob, guess what? We have squeaked through by our chinny chin chin here to the 90-minute mark.
Well, Todd, I think we got a little bit dependent over the last few weeks of having a guest on.
We did, and we didn't do enough homework.
That's right, and when it just gets back to you and I, which we've gone long stretches of time when it's just been you and I.
Yeah,
and I think we got into a groove with that, right?
That's
and
true.
Then we started to shift to having interviews again, and we got lazy.
So, and I must apologize. Last week, I even tweeted about it. I didn't feel like I was on my A game, felt I was distracted. So those of you that were here last week and stayed all the way through. I hope I didn't irritate you. I do apologize if I did. I had a whole bunch of stuff going on with the podcast awards. I was trying to juggle at the same time doing the show, and it wasn't polite. So I apologize from the last show.
So this podcast site, I pulled up, I logged in and got access to the New Media Show kind of ranking metrics. It still doesn't say what it's based on, but it shows that our ranking went up right around the middle of August, so like the 12th.
Well, I think we had some hot interviews. I think coming out of Podcast Movement, we had some juicy ones.
Well, like Rob Walsh was on.
Right.
And we had Google Podcasts was on.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'm going to get the Dossie from Spotify on here soon too. It'd be nice to have him on.
It'd be great.
Yeah. But we shall see. But yeah, I mean, I think maybe we should have Rob Walsh on more often because it definitely spiked numbers.
Yeah, he helps. So what we should do though is put a donate link in the show notes and on the website to see if this donation model actually works.
Hey, there you go. Let's do it, Todd.
I'll make some I'll be able to make a special PayPal link so that it breaks it out. So I make sure that the donations come into this show versus my other show. We'll be able to see that. I'll try to. I don't know if I'll do it for this episode, but hey, guess what, folks? If you like the New Media Show, we're going to have a donation link on the website. And in the show notes. And if you see this donation link in the actual app, go ahead and hit that and added value for value. If you think we're a good show here and we're worth the money, throw us a nickel.
Hey, Todd, I just noticed that the highest ranking that we have in podcast in Apple Podcasts is actually in India.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're 195th.
Wow, fantastic. We made it to the top 200. If I had a soundboard here, we'd go, yay!
So,
who's our Indian listeners? Please email us.
And then number 2 on that list is Russia at 207.
Oh, there's some conspiracy. We're colluding.
Right.
We're colluding in the podcasting space with Russia.
That's right. There's such thing as free speech in Russia, right?
We're
an example of it, right?
Well, yeah. If you arrive in country, you might know. Well,
my son actually lives there.
Oh, that's interesting. Maybe that's why we rank so well over there. He's listening to us. So, that's kind of weird. All right, all you in Russia that are listening to the show, just an email. Where are you from? How are you actually? What are you getting out of this show?
Right. Well, they're aspiring podcasters.
Yeah.
But I guess we're growing in popularity in Canada right now.
Oh, we're growing.
Yes.
Yeah. So for the Canucks up there, we're glad you like the show.
Yeah. So I think it has, let's see, it's got Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. Let's see, does it have any data around Google Podcasts for us? It doesn't appear that it has any data at all. So it must be an aspirational thing that they have, but I don't see any data for our show for Google Podcasts.
Well, we're fixed in Google Podcasts. We're now a New Media Show. You can find us now, at least. Not the New Media Show.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't do a search for the New Media Show in here.
Yeah, I think
I'm assuming
it shouldn't. Yeah, I made the changes. Hopefully it's updated on their website. Rick says, do I get a t-shirt? He says, I'm number 124th in technology and gadgets, but out of how many? In the tech category, Rick, probably 30,000 or so. So jump for joy there. The ranking is only within that category / subcategory. So,
Hey,
right.
Todd, just to give our listeners an idea of how long we've been doing this show, there's a comment in here that's 8 years old.
Well, if you think about, this is number, 317.
Yeah.
And how many did we do of the Saturday morning tech? 200 some?
We were at least in the 200 range. Yeah.
So I'll go back and find that actual number, but we're like 500 episodes in on this show.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize how long this show has been going, because it was going for many years as a different show.
Yep. And then we made a command decision right in the middle of a show to change the name, and we did it. We bought the domain name right during the show.
So I'm going to ask this question again. Do you think the New Media Show fits this show anymore?
I think so.
You think
so?
You? Okay. I was just thinking, if there was some name that maybe had the word podcast in it. But
well, I've got 278 domains. Let me go look. Rebrand and rename the show again. So let's leave it to the audience. What should we call it? What do you guys want to? What do you guys if we rename the show? See, this is how this works here. What do you think we should rename it to?
I don't know. Like, This Week in Podcasting.
I think isn't someone this? You have to be careful. I think using This Week In, isn't that trademarked?
Oh, that's true. It's a Leo thing, isn't it?
No, I don't think it's even a Leo thing. I think it's a what's that other venture capital guy? And
Jason Calacanis.
Jason, I think it's a Jason. I think he owns a trademark to This Week In. I think so. You have to be careful in using that one. Who knows? Maybe he's dissolved that. I don't know.
I could always ask Jason to come on the show. And we could negotiate with him. No, just kidding. I could also ask Gary Vaynerchuk to come on the show too. Maybe he can counsel us.
There is a podcast called This Week in Podcast, and it's the podcast, This Week in Podcast. There's a name that's probably going to get taken down by Apple.
Yeah, well, and maybe we should just stick with what we have, because it's got a name out there now. If we change now, it's like starting over.
Yeah. And all right, what else? Does anyone else have anything? Yeah, well, you can do both. Really, really mess up the Apple folks. Have two shows with the same data in it. So, all right, well, everyone, thanks. Thanks for listening. Todd at bluebear.com or at Geek News on Twitter. Rob?
Rob at Spreaker.com if you want to reach me. And then I'm also on Twitter at Rob Greenlee, and that's with 2 E's. So it's always great to hear from you if you have a comment or feedback on the topics, or if you'd like a certain guest or topic for us to talk about, let us know.
And we will not be live on Facebook next week. We will only be live on newmediashow.com/live with the Spreaker Live plug-in. So you'll have to go there to get the show. We won't just see us live on Facebook. So just a heads up. If you want to listen in, that's where we'll be. Don't worry if you're subscribed to the show, which we hope you are already. Just go over to newmediashow.com and click the subscribe link. That'll get you connected where you should be anyway. Everyone, thanks for being here. We'll see you next week on the New Media Show. Everyone, take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.